That's where a lot of businesses, and in the nonprofit world, I would highlight, fall short sometimes, is that they're so committed and so dedicated to cause, and that's what it's all about, and that's so important. But to a company that you want people to know, and you want to get the word out, and it takes networking, it takes fundraiser events, it takes digital marketing, it takes traditional marketing, it takes so many moving parts.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mind Your Own Business podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Sterick. Today we've got Josh with us. Josh runs a nonprofit organization here in Ventura, California, and beyond. And we're really happy to have Josh here on the show. Today I've got co-host Tom McLean as well.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. Josh is a really good buddy of mine, and he's doing some amazing things for Turning Point, so I'm glad that you're bringing him in.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know that today's going to be a cool episode. We've spent quite a bit of time here in the 444 Clubhouse prior to recording this show, and so I'm pretty excited to hang out. Josh has shown us all kinds of cool stuff, including some MetaQuest VR goggles, which ties really tight into what we're doing with AI and stuff like that. But Josh, why don't you give us a little bit of background on where you came from and what you did, and kind of where we are today and where we're going in the future?
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, this is definitely a treat. Yeah, that was fun. We were playing with the new MetaQuest 3, which is this augmented reality meets VR, and it's a great tool, and it could be used for so many things that you guys experienced. I think it'll be the next generation in digital marketing, and definitely combined with AI technology, it's pretty powerful. Yeah. So that was fun. Right on.
It has all directions too. Like I had the nostalgia of going to my childhood home, and then I got to go onto Lord Vader's or somebody's spaceship, and I get to visit Darth Vader.
Oh yeah, it's
all
amazing.
Within a matter of minutes.
Yeah, you could do almost anything with these. Yeah. And the technology is just getting that much more advanced. You know, every year. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see where it all ends up and where it goes.
Yeah, it was really unbelievable for sure.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad you all tried it. It's good stuff. So I'll just basically go over, some of the more recent past. I've been in Ventura County. I've lived out here for about, almost 15 years now, and had a lot of fun out here working with Fillmore and Western Railroad as the director over there for almost 7 years. And then moving on, now that there isn't a Fillmore and Western, moving on into getting to work for a wonderful nonprofit that's been around for about 35 years in this county called Turning Point Foundation. And they basically help folks dealing with mental illness, with homelessness, with substance abuse. And when I say somebody, I'm talking about folks that are 18 years and older, primarily adults, young adults, middle-aged adults, elderly folks, veterans, anyone we can help. And this nonprofit has grown now to 11 locations in 3 different cities and 13 programs in total.
That's amazing.
Yeah. The 3 cities are Ventura, are Oxnard, and Camarillo.
Great.
And the locations vary from wellness centers to housing to an emergency shelter to even a 2-acre nursery where people can go through horticultural therapy as part of their recovery.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's so many ways we can provide help. We have even a dedicated house for veterans.
Wow.
Where we have about, I believe, 14 beds.
Wow.
And fully staffed with program managers, peer support specialists. In fact, one thing I really like to highlight, and I like to tell folks about, it's kind of a hidden gem in this part of the county, is we have a location called the Oxnard Wellness Center. It's where the Center Point Mall is. It's beautiful inside. It's huge. It's behind the Walmart. It practically feels like the size of one. And it's where anybody can walk in during the day and get help if they're having a tough time.
That's incredible.
And the beauty of it, it's no cost, no insurance needed, and you don't need to be referred to go there.
That's incredible.
It is.
Yeah, because as we know, our healthcare system isn't the most efficient thing in the world. And so having a resource like that is unbelievable for anybody from any walk of life.
What's just so incredible is anyone can walk in who needs help at any time the doors are open during the week. It's a day program.
Yeah.
And it has a full calendar of activities. They have food for folks. It has a full kitchen. They have the peer support specialist there. We have a program manager there. It gives people time to sit down and talk with each other and have that interaction, which is all part of what helps when you're going through a tough time to that road to recovery. It's part of the rehabilitation process.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing to see. So I stress that. I hope any of your listeners who think that there's nowhere to go or nowhere exists like that, it does. And that's where I recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think if people are struggling, no matter where they are in the country, it's good to know that there are resources out there like this for people to get access to help.
Yeah.
And I know that this is just one small component of the entire country that has all of these different types of centers in every major metro. And smaller towns too. People don't know about them though, and they need to search them out. Of course, for Turning Point Foundation, like you have a website and you have community outreach, and you guys do a lot of fundraisers and things like that to get the word out there, because I think that's one of the most important parts of this thing is getting people to know that you exist.
You touched on a very hot topic when it comes to these things. That was a great point you just brought up and made. Interesting example, and I'll use Turning Point. I've been with them for a year now, and I'm honored to be there. It's such a great fit, and these are such dedicated and committed people that have now grown to over 100 staff.
Wow.
To manage all of this.
Wow.
And interesting how many people, 35 years, as I mentioned, have never heard of Turning Point Foundation.
Wow.
And this is such an important cause, and this is such a well-run nonprofit that literally doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the walk. They execute.
Yeah.
And they help over 3,000 people a year.
Wow.
And that's where it's so important that awareness and exposure are a key ingredient. Marketing plays a part in all of this.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of businesses, and in the nonprofit world, I would highlight, fall short sometimes, is that they're so committed and so dedicated cause, and that's what it's all about, and that's so important. But to accompany that, you want people to know, and you want to get the word out.
Yeah.
And it takes networking, it takes fundraiser events, it takes digital marketing, it takes traditional marketing, it takes so many moving parts that when you can start to become effective in all of them and harmonize them and bring in all the things you want people to know what you're about, what your business is about, into one microcosm and run with it and use strategy, effective tools, new technologies, and come full circle with all that. Now you're going to start seeing what they call ROI. You're going to see return on your investment. And it doesn't always have to be a large investment. In fact, you can do it on a breadcrumb budget if you do it right and you're very strategic about how you do that. And a lot of it is just people.
Yeah.
It's just going out there and meeting people and talking to people and networking and relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Play a huge part, and being able to be, I mean this in a good way, being a good storyteller.
yeah.
And also showing results, testimonials, how you've helped, in this case, change people's lives or made a difference in their life.
Another thing, too, that I think is really important, and one of the reasons why I think you're a perfect guest for this type of a podcast, your typical fundraiser doesn't have to be the same old boring stuff that you see. It doesn't have to be a car wash. It doesn't have to be candy bar sale. It doesn't have to be the same stuff over and over again. Josh is really super creative when it comes to these fundraisers.
Yeah.
And in some of the ways that he's brought money into Turning Point, I think he really enjoys it because he gets to exercise that creative gene. That makes you feel fulfillment when you're taking something that was nothing and like creating it. And that Bard Mansion event that he put together, like that's something that it took vision and having to tell a lot of people how this vision works and get them to show up. And he knocked it out of the park.
Go ahead and tell everybody, what the Bard Mansion event was, and then how did it go?
Sure. Well, thanks for bringing that up, Big T. That is awesome. Thank you for mentioning,
Sure.
wanting to talk more about it.
Yeah.
I just got to preface this by saying that Big Tom played a huge part in that event. It's people like him that help support these things that really bring them to life, that help bring the magic of what it takes to make it happen and show people a good time that's memorable and raise money in the process. I just want to say he was the late night comedy part of that evening at the mansion, and he came before and stayed through it, and even after till, gosh, it had to have been midnight, with getting everything out of the mansion, because we had staged it with a lot of props and a lot of fun things for people to see as they explored it, which was one part of it. And I was ready to just come back the next day because I was exhausted. And this guy, he goes up to the attic of the mansion, which we actually opened up for people to see, and brings all the stuff down, and it's like, we're getting it all in the U-Haul. We will get it done tonight. And I couldn't have done it without him.
That's awesome.
And it's that kind of person that you don't find every day. So I give you a lot of credit for that, man. Way to go, Big Tom.
When you see somebody doing that much work, you want to take a little bit off of their shoulders. It's more about trying to make sure that you're not doing it all. It's your leadership by example. See people that show up for their events. That's what they usually do. Josh is there. I think he went 2 nights without sleep before this event, or at least pretty close to no sleep.
Yeah.
And then he's there, and he's the last person there tearing down. How tall was the skeleton?
12 feet.
He had a 12-foot skeleton out front. All this stuff was falling on him. Wow. And I'm like, it can't all fall on you. You know what I mean? And so that was the reason I hung out, was to help you out, not out of some
a lifesaver,
making me some great person or anything like that.
Well, you were. He was literally, besides my wife and my daughter Jade, it was you. And we couldn't have done it without. And for someone to step up and be willing to do that after such a long night, after performing, you performed that night with your comedy for a good hour at least. I mean, people don't just always, a lot of people don't do that.
Having a big prime rib in my belly made me more tired than performing. Not, that was the obstacle.
Let me just say, he did all this out of the kindness of his heart. Wow. He did all this in kind to just help.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of what it takes to set up. I practically spent the night there 2 nights before, because part of this was because it was a Halloween event. It was a Halloween fundraiser for Turning Point. It had many components. And part of it was getting to explore the attic of this 100-year-old mansion. And the attic is an unfinished 4th floor, so it's huge. But it was a mess when I got there.
Sure.
Because years and years, stuff had been put up there. So I spent the whole night myself with the ghosts. Got to know the ghosts there pretty well. And clean that whole thing up and tarp it and move stuff so it was safe for people to go up there, and that you can even walk through it.
Yeah.
And it turned out all right. So I'm glad, that I really, if we're going to go the distance, then we got to pull out all the stops. And if it takes not sleeping, then that's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
And this is a big place. It's a huge venue.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to take on. So basically what we had was people could buy tickets. They were $180 a ticket. They'd get a formal sit-down dinner with prime rib, all-you-can-drink wine. We had a Magic Castle magician. There's a beautiful ballroom there where we had everybody seated.
That's awesome, yeah.
Served.
Everybody's dressed all nice.
Everyone's dressed nice. It's kind of like if you took the Magic Castle and the Haunted Mansion and put them together.
Yeah.
This would be what would come from that.
Right.
So let's talk about the business aspect of that a little bit. How many tickets did you sell?
We sold out.
Sold out. What is a
basically, a sellout was capacity that the mansion could handle, which was about 110 people. And it was a combined effort. Thanks to people talking to people they know, people getting the word out. Big Tom even had a bunch of friends, a whole table full of people that came through, and other people that we work with, Bob Davis. But I could name so many names of people that really stepped up to say, hey, come to this event. It's for a great cause. But even beyond that, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun fundraiser that you've never experienced before.
Yeah.
And that's where the creativity side, you don't have to go with the mold. It's fun to break the mold.
Yeah, of course.
And go and try new things and see how they end up.
So if we're talking about the metrics of that, right? So you guys generated somewhere around $18,000 in gross?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We grossed more than that, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What did you gross? Let's break it down for everybody listening.
Yeah, sure.
We're talking about minding our own businesses, and so let's see what it looks like.
Sure.
From a foundational standpoint, right?
Sure.
From a nonprofit organization that helps people, it's still a business, even though it's a nonprofit.
Yeah. Let me just back up just to say why nobody complained about getting their money's worth. Because $180 for a ticket could sound like a lot. But when they got there, again, they got this beautiful dinner. They could choose from 3 different dinner items. They got wine, they got the magic show. Then we excuse everybody to explore the whole mansion. We gave
awesome.
everybody ghost hunting kits.
That's cool.
Custom
Yeah,
made.
sure. It's a full experience.
Full
Yeah,
experience. We had a
absolutely.
fortune teller, palm reader, tarot card,
Yeah.
the whole thing, and then late night comedy. And then the mansion was also staged a bit, so it was fun for people to explore the different floors and see a lot. It was interactive.
Yeah.
We even had a few actors in there.
That's cool.
Making it fun. It's interesting when you can create a fundraising experience where you put the fun in fundraiser,
Yeah.
and they're going to this event and don't even remember what the cause was.
Yeah.
You have a good event.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
the cost. If they don't remember the cost because they got so much value.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do in any business, right? Is increase our value proposition so they forget about how much it costs because you made their experience over the top. You over delivered where the cost, they felt like it was not enough, where they felt like they would have paid more. That's the customer and client experience that we want to give to every single person, whether if it's a for-profit or a non-profit company.
Yeah, that's a good point. It leaves a good impression. It shows that you delivered, you gave them their money's worth, and retention.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are people that if we do it again next year, hopefully they'll all come back and we
Yeah.
can make it a 2-day event.
Yeah.
A 2-night event. So all these things are good, and especially in a nonprofit world. You know, these are people that either aren't just always new folks that have never didn't know who you are or never been to anything you've ever done. These are folks that have maybe contributed to
Sure.
your nonprofit, folks that you want them there to have a good time, just to reward them for all their generosity.
Yeah.
You know, this is that opportunity you create for all those reasons, and it's important on so many levels, and you just touched on that.
So on that particular event, kind
Okay.
of give us the breakdown.
So
Let's
in
run
this
through the
case,
numbers.
this kind of fundraiser really is nice when you can build in your fundraising and some of the revenue that you end up netting in the end into the ticket price. So that's nice. You set a ticket price, you try to sell it out, you know you're gonna what your costs are, and anything over that you're now able to use for your cause, which is great. And that also helps with these events. You know, not only are people going there for all the excitement and fun, but they know they're helping and they're supporting a cause with a mission.
Yeah.
And it's really important that you equally promote both, you know, by coming here and by buying a ticket.
Yeah.
All the proceeds are going towards.
Now, did you guys also have like an auction or something like that?
We did. Where it is the ticket price, and then in this case, it was nice to have a silent auction. It's not too intrusive.
Sure.
It's not like you're there and making your guests feel like, oh, I got you now. It turns into like a money grab,
Yeah.
and you're just kind of pressuring them to give more after they just paid $180 a person. So I didn't want that feel. I wanted it to be very casual and very relaxed, and if people want to give more, here's ways you can.
Yeah.
So the silent auction was nice. The main room in this mansion had this beautiful oversized fireplace, and it's just gorgeous room. We put a great photo prop in there of these zombies, like life-size zombies you can take photo with.
Yeah.
And then the tables surrounding it, we put all kinds of silent auction items with clipboards, and people could leisurely come up
Yeah.
and just bid, and then let it go all night.
Yeah.
So the bids can go higher, and then at the end of the night, tally everything up, contact the high bidders,
Yeah.
work it out, and get them and having good sponsors. Oh, is that a big help too?
Yeah.
You want your sponsors, they'll contribute at different tier levels, where they get something out of that too, where you're promoting them as a sponsor to show that they're helping out and that they're a big part of this
Yeah, definitely.
being
A lot-
possible.
I'm sure a lot comes from that too.
It does. So
The Port of Hueneme was a big sponsor.
Port of
of that
Hueneme was a
event.
sponsor.
Yeah.
Ventura County Credit Union was a sponsor.
That's great.
Yeah, so those are some good examples. Yeah, thanks for bringing
Yeah,
that up.
I love the Port of Hueneme. We worked extensively there when we had our trucking company.
Oh, great.
And so we worked with CEO and CFO, and a lot of the people in the office side of things, not only the outside but the interior. And they're a great bunch of people over there, and they're doing good work. That's for sure.
That's great. We even had a board member step up and sponsor it for her own private table.
That's amazing.
She bought it out, and I think she donated like $2,000.
That's awesome.
Just for that.
Love
And
it.
it's fun to name your tiers like fun
Of course.
little names,
Yeah.
not just like gold level silver.
Right.
You get more creative with that. So
Yeah, well, and that's smart, man, because a lot of people do this kind of stuff, and whether they're doing a sponsorship thing or they're, on the for-profit side and they're naming their offers something, well, you are a platinum member level, whatever. But if you get fun with it, then people interact more, right? I like to think of like Silicon Valley tech startups. They're not taking themselves too seriously, and they always name their offers different things, you know. And so I think that it's cool that, you know, you did that for the charity event as well.
Yeah, yeah. Sponsorships, I mean, those are almost like partnerships too.
Absolutely.
Because you want to acknowledge them, but they could also play a big part in getting the word out for you as well. They have their own social media platforms, and they have their own ways of marketing. And if they can take some of your content and share that, well, now your exposure has gone even further, and it helps them in the process, saying, hey, look who we're supporting.
Yeah.
You know, it goes both ways. It's cross promotion.
Yeah.
You know, it's cross pollinating. I always think that's the greatest thing ever when you can have a coming together like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit, because off camera we were talking about your life before Turning Point Foundation.
Sure.
And you worked in a very unique thing with a railroad and a rail yard. And I want everybody to hear the story of how you sold 100 acres of trains and train cars and all these different
3 months.
in less than 90 days.
Yeah.
On eBay, you sold full-blown locomotives, full trains on eBay.
Yeah.
Let's get into that,
Most
man.
bittersweet thing I've ever had to do,
Oh.
but it worked out in the end for all the right reasons.
I'm sure it was bittersweet. So let's dive in. Like, how did you get started with that?
Sure.
And then tell me, run us through like how
Sure,
you ended
sure.
up there and all that.
Yeah, yeah. Let me back up really quick. One other thing I just want to give an example from the Turning Point Foundation side is by doing these types of fundraisers and events and getting creative and being able to reach out to not only the people that you already have involved in your business, but trying to get new business and new people involved. It's being creative like that. It's these big events, but also in this case, we created our own festival too. We created the Mental Wellness Festival.
Oh.
And I said to myself, this is something we should have in this county.
Yeah.
There's such a need for it. Homelessness is such a big thing right now. People's mental health is still a big thing. There's still a stigma out there, you know, and this can help address that by making it okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
It's okay to get
Yeah.
help if you need it. You're not some monster. You don't have to feel isolated.
Yeah.
People shouldn't make people feel isolated in that world.
I
So-
agree. I
so-
don't know if I ever told you, but my wife is a therapist.
Oh, wow.
She runs a private practice in Westlake, and she just opened an office recently in Ventura.
Wonderful.
And so we're all about that. So
She's somebody I'd love to have at our mental wellness festival. I'll
she
be
would love to
honest.
be there. I'm
We'll-
not
we'll
going to
get in touch
speak
with
out
that.
of turn for her.
Yeah.
Sorry, babe. I know you're listening.
No problem.
But I know that she would love to
She'd
be
be
there for
more
sure.
than welcome.
Yeah, and she of course could bring a team of people, you know, into that environment for you guys to help out.
Great.
Yeah.
So our good fortune was when I felt, you know, this is something that not only could we use in this county, but it'd be a great platform for Turning Point Foundation to be the organizer of,
Of course.
part of that exposure and awareness.
Yeah.
But also bring in everyone else in the community who wants to be a part of this. And we were lucky to partner with Ventura Harbor Village to do it there.
Awesome.
And right now we're working on a date for next year. So
Okay.
expect
It's such
expect
a
to see
great
it again.
event. It
Wasn't
was
that fun?
Really, really well done. Yeah.
right.
Unfortunately, I had to get up to Santa Barbara, so I wasn't able to
You came
hang
by.
very long.
Yeah, but you came by. That was great.
Yeah, it was a
So
really good event. They did a really good job.
we had a lot of fun.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
keep me posted on that.
Yeah.
We'll be a part of it for sure.
Sure. That event, just real quickly, there's a place in Ojai called Meditation Mount,
Okay.
which is amazing. They're like a whole mountain. And they do meditation, sound bathing, all kinds of great music therapy. For the first time, they came down the mountain, and I offered them about a third of the grass lawn that we set up on at Ventura Harbor Village, a huge space where they can offer sessions all day long, and they offered them for free to people.
That's great.
So that was just one component of many. Then we had an art exhibit where clients, we call them clients when it's in mental health,
Of course.
who wanted to create art could submit the art, and we made an exhibit where people could come and see the art. And some of it had some very great messages that were part of it that people could understand and appreciate. And then we had a plant exhibit, horticulture exhibit, which was from our place Growing Works,
Yeah.
which is that nursery I told you about.
Uh-huh.
That's client cultivated plants. So we had all that out there, and people could buy
That's
the
really
plants,
cool. Yeah.
native plants, like
Yeah.
succulents and all kinds of crazy things. So this is all just like, and then we had all these folks from the community, all these other organizations and therapists and folks that help with wellness and helping people who are dealing with
Yeah.
mental health problems, issues, or mental illnesses. So it was so many great components and beautifully. We even had a bluegrass band with some uplifting music. People were going nuts out there.
Yeah, there was lots of dancing. I remember that.
There was. We had a good old time. So it's great when you can see a first time thing like that.
Yeah.
Be enough of a success that people want to do it again.
Yeah.
That's when I think you made a difference and you're onto something that you could continue.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing about the turning point that I think is really important is that they deal with veterans, and it's a really important. The mental health discussion when it comes to veterans it's talked about, but I don't think people realize how bad it is. I as you know, I had a VA appointment this morning. I'm in the VA system to get my mental health evaluation, which I first attempted to schedule in September.
Wow.
My evaluation. So if you're in crisis, your evaluation was set for January.
That's ridiculous.
They've changed my appointment 4 times, and now it's going to be a video or a phone call in February. This is how bad do you need our services and what level do you need them? That's the barrier of entry. People like Turning Point who are filling in those gaps for the veterans. As we know the statistics, we lose a lot of veterans every day to mental health.
Yeah.
So that's why I find it really important. That's one of the reasons why I'm so dedicated to supporting Turning Point, because it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, you're living through it.
Yeah, I can see it. I can only imagine somebody who feels hopeless, has no support system, being in that situation going, oh, so I've got to figure out how to keep it together until February? You know what I mean? Imagine that.
It's crazy to me.
It is. It's insane.
And I've heard this before, and I know that it's not like a new problem. The VA has been in shambles for decades.
I actually really like the majority of the help I've got with the VA, but the mental health.
That's what I mean.
From what I
Mental
understand,
health side of it.
if I understand the barrier of entry for employment, they make it ridiculous without a lot of a payoff. So it's kind of hard to get good therapists to stick around. And it's also the demand is so great. And I think that you probably, when you're dealing with veterans, you might be dealing with therapists don't have a choice. Sometimes they take their work home with them. And a lot of veterans see things that other people don't see. So as they're working through this stuff, the therapist is as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think it's also kind of a difficult job too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not more difficult. I don't think one's necessarily, but I can imagine it's heavy,
Yeah.
So.
You're right.
But that's why Turning Point is so important to me, because they support the veteran. They have veterans homes, and they're very pro-veteran. And their entire board lives by that, and I think that's cool.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely.
Thanks for pointing that out, and from your own life experience and being able to share that aspect of it. We do have referrals. Many of our folks are referred from the VA. It basically, what our veteran program is in a little more detail is in Ventura off the avenue. We have a house there. And again, I think it's like 12 to 14 beds, kitchen, fully staffed, program manager. It's a place where vets can come together and talk and be amongst each other. It's transitional housing, so they can stay for a certain amount of time to get the help they need, and then we can go from there. So it's a wonderful program, and I've been over there many times now. We've had wonderful support with that program from all over. And I love just going over there and meeting some of these guys and listening to their stories and what they've done for our country. And it's so important we give back in that sort of way. And there's a constant need. You're right. There really is. I mean, we practically have wait lists. I mean, as soon as there's a bed available, there's somebody next in line to get some help, and we're there for them.
Wow. It's incredible, man. You guys are doing God's work over there.
Well, thank you.
That's for sure.
Thank you. It's very rewarding just to see the difference it makes.
Hey, everybody, really quick. I just wanted to let you know that we do this for free. We do this out of the goodness of our heart. And all that we ask of you is just to quickly leave a review, if you wouldn't mind. It really helps the algorithm, and it helps push this out to a lot more people every time you do that. And if you've already subscribed, that's awesome. Thank you so much. But definitely leave a review. It really, really helps us out. And I know for you guys, it only takes less than 30 seconds. Okay, back to the show.
And it's a crazy coincidence, because me and Josh became friends a long time ago when he was working at the Fillmore Western Railroad.
Okay.
I was at the radio station, and I would bring him in. And I tell you, the Fillmore Western Railroad hit its heyday while Josh was planning their events. He brought back Railfest, which was successful, then went away.
Honey Festival.
He was bringing back these events, and all of a sudden it was like there's stuff to do in Fillmore,
And
Santa
ridership
Paula.
on our trains. I mean, we were hurting because of a lot of stuff that was going on where some people even thought the railroad was closed. This is a good segue back to the railroad. I just had to touch back to Turning Point for a few.
For sure.
But so coming on there was another one of those dream jobs. This is one right now with Turning Point, but prior to that was another. I just so fortunate to get these opportunities and be amongst people like this. All visionaries in their own way, which is beautiful. But yeah, with Fillmore Western, I came in at a very pivotal time where the railroad was really hurting, and we really had to grow it again and get people to want to ride the trains and know that that Fillmore and Western's still operating, that it's still around. We won't plan to keep it around for as long as we can. And I got to ride out literally the last 7 years of Fillmore and Western. It was a 30-year railroad operation. Dave and Teresa, husband and wife, put their heart and soul and had this vision to not only help all the movie production companies and create one of the most amazing collection of rolling stock or trains and train props, but to then make it where people could ride the movie trains and go have fun in all these great train adventures, from murder mystery dinners to the Polar Express to the North Pole Express to the Pumpkin Liner to the Zombie Hunter train, all these fascinating, train adventures. And they take people into these little towns that were railroad towns that brought all kinds of great cultural interest into Piru, into Santa Paula, it attracted people to Fillmore because that's where Fillmore and Western's depot was, where we would depart from. And
they had this great
that part
North
of the
Pole
county
facade that was like, what was that in like Piru, where the train goes up and Santa's standing there, and it's like the train went to the North Pole somehow.
Yeah, we try to recreate
Santa
that.
jumps off of the North Pole and onto the train, and there you go.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of just wonderful experience for families, for people of all ages. We worked with nonprofits. We helped support causes. We had the Spirit of Christmas train, which was a huge toy drive. We take this 100-year-old Baldwin steam engine, starting in Ventura at the fairgrounds, and work our way through all these neighborhoods back to Fillmore. This beautifully lit up steam train stopping in your neighborhood with Santa on it.
That's amazing.
And people are donating unwrapped toys.
Yeah.
And we're putting them in our train car.
Yeah.
And they can photo op with Santa, and we're giving out coloring books and candy canes and attracting hundreds of people at each stop.
Wow.
And get even better, getting all these toys to help kids that are not as, might be in a difficult position.
Sure.
Not as fortunate.
Yeah, of course.
So, those experiences you
It's
just
amazing.
can't.
That's amazing. So take us to the pandemic when things started to unravel for you guys.
Yeah, that was a difficult time. That's pretty much towards the end of Fillmore and Western. It was all sort of coming to an end around then. It was 2020, right, when that hit hard.
Yep.
So 2019 was really our last blockbuster year, and we were really going places. We were growing. Our events were getting bigger and better every year. Railfest, the Honey Festival, and anything else we could be involved in that area. It's called the Heritage Valley out that way along the 126 highway. Beautiful, farm
Yeah, it's gorgeous
agriculture. It's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. Citrus groves,
Yeah.
avocado groves, everything you could ever want to keep riding a train through.
Sure.
So yeah, sadly, COVID played a part in that. It definitely shut us down for a little while, and the owners were getting ready to retire. They spent so much of their life dedicated to this, and there was a 30-year lease, that the railroad had to ride on what was called the branch line. So that was coming to a close as well. So it was sort of all just that time.
Okay.
And then it led to having to liquidate, which again was bittersweet.
So wait, hold on a second. So they didn't want to re-up their lease or renegotiate?
Yeah,
or
it didn't.
Like that?
Yeah, it didn't pan out to be able to renew the lease, and the owners were kind of ready to be like, okay, we gave it our 30 years. We did our.
Yeah.
They did everything you could imagine. So
Was it profitable, this railroad? Because it only went through a small section, right?
It went through 30 miles of track.
And I can't imagine that they're doing a whole bunch of, like commercial type of stuff with it. They're doing mostly like, what's the right word? Private, like tours and train rides and
Excursions.
things.
Yeah,
like
they're
that.
That's a very good
Yeah.
question. That was a lot of the Fillmore Western got its start in being profitable by working with all the movie production companies.
Okay.
And they got to be known as the go-to for anything train related.
Okay.
So that in itself, being able to lease out rolling stock, steam engines, parlor car, dining cars, passenger cars, caboose, you name it, they had the whole collection.
Okay.
And we're talking about Pullman era from the 1930s up.
Wow.
So if you needed a certain car for a certain period of time for
Yeah.
your shoot, then they had it.
I got
They
it.
had such an inventory.
So the
2
majority
train
of their
rides full.
revenue was like
A
from
lot of the movie
movie,
business,
film, all
yeah,
that. Okay.
and it's great. People would often film on location out in that part of our
Okay.
county, or it would be sent off to whatever set in whatever state
Yeah.
to bring the trains to.
Okay.
So it was pretty fascinating how that all worked, and that was pretty much the bread and butter.
Okay.
But then the owners said, "Hey, let's take it further. Let's make it where we can have train adventures, and again, people could ride the movie trains and get to experience being on these cars, of a forgotten era in a way, and be able to relive some of this,
Yeah.
and then make it fun by creating these various train adventures.
Yeah.
Beyond the train adventures themselves, it was really helpful to those little towns because we'd stop there and let people get off, go into those towns, maybe eat there, go to a museum like at
Yeah.
Santa Paula. There's all these great museums.
Yeah.
Explore, get back on the train. On the weekends, it would be like a whole itinerary
Yeah.
of places to go. So it's the love and what that railroad brought helped not just the railroad but the whole community
Yeah.
thrived, and it was the big tourist attraction to help put Fillmore on the map, really, and support all the surrounding towns.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's
along
a
the way.
revenue driver for the area, right? Just, it's a tourist attraction if you really think about it that
Exactly
way.
what tourism entertainment. It got
Yeah.
very heavy on that ridership, ticket
Yeah.
sales, all of that. So combined, yes, it was profitable.
That's great.
It really was nice, and the collection of trains and especially the props
Yeah.
kept growing. Because as more productions came out there, we're talking movies, commercials, series like you see on Netflix and other streaming services. Everybody would come out who needed that in their shot, and it grew because sometimes when things were finished, these production companies either didn't want them anymore or had nowhere to put them.
Yeah.
So they ended up on the yard.
So they just
and there were
leave
2
them-
massive yards.
They
of
just
stuff.
leave them with you guys.
They
then.
did, right.
Yeah.
So it just, it was great. And like I said, it turned into 2 massive train yards, which you probably weren't far off with your guess as to the amount of land space that
100
takes
acres.
up. Yeah. It was a sight to behold, and it was so awesome to walk amongst those.
It felt like the train yards went almost the entire length of Fillmore because once you got to that one area, the train yards just kept going and going.
It was like
and
2
going.
city blocks,
Yeah.
pretty much, in that one part of Fillmore, not far from
Huge.
the city hall,
Yeah.
area. Yeah, it was exciting, but in the end, it really came down to, well, we're coming to a close. We need to find a way in a short amount of time to liquidate and really find a good home. Within 3 months, about 3 months, we had to do it. So it really was. There wasn't a lot of time to waste.
Yeah, 3 months to sell 100 acres worth of train stuff to however many people actually want to buy train stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
That's true.
I mean,
It's
like,
such a
how
different-
big of a market is that? It's probably very, very small.
Yeah. There's only so many folks that love trains enough to want to spend the money to buy them.
Yeah.
Especially on this level.
Absolutely.
Full scale American gauge.
Yeah,
Rolling
I mean,
stock.
and if we're talking about selling one product versus another, Tom, you're huge into selling sports memorabilia. I mean, you showed me a bat earlier from Jose Canseco that he personally signed that you have for sale, and all of this product that you have. That's a very large market. A lot of people love sports.
Yeah, and it's really picked up since COVID. It really picked up again, and the whole baseball card market that had taken a big dive, it picked back up.
Propped it back up then. Huh?
Yeah, so all these guys that threw away all their cards and stuff are regretting it.
Yeah.
because some
Now-
of them are worth something.
Wow.
Now compare that to people
Targeted
who,
market.
to people who want to buy full-size trains.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Very
zero
niche. Very niche.
compared to sports
True.
memorabilia.
True. That's
So
where
tell-
you need to tap into those targeted markets, but you also want the most wide exposure you can possibly get for those you may have, that may be interested in you. They're just not on your radar.
Yeah.
Just get it out to as many people as possible.
Yeah,
and
one to many.
do it the most cost-effective way, where you're not having to put so much into advertising it and putting it out there that you're not going to make anything in return.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because when I was talking with the owners, they said, Josh, we're not sure how we're going to do this or what we're going to do. Can you help us out, with this final chapter? And there was no way I could say no to that.
Sure.
I have so much love and respect for all of them and all I got to be part of with them, that last thing I want to see is for them not to succeed in the end and retire happily.
Yeah.
And have a little something
Yeah.
to for them and their kids and their family. So I said, absolutely. When do you need me? Can you come tomorrow? Yes, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did, I'll never forget, is I went in the office and I'm sitting there with Dave and TJ and their son, and they're like, well, what's your plan? I said, well, here's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to create a Fillmore and Western eBay account. And they looked at me like I was nuts.
Yeah, I would too.
There are no trains on eBay. Who sells trains on eBay? I said, that's the point. You have so many unique things here.
Yeah.
You have these one-off props that are like no other from iconic movies.
Yeah.
You have so much beautiful rolling stock here from all different parts in our history, from, like I said, the 1930s forward, all these types of train cars, engines, diesel engines, steam engine, so much here that is just so special. Why not? I said, let me explain something, guys. It's not going to cost you anything until it sells.
Sure.
To do this. And it can't hurt.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose by it. And you're going to only gain exposure. eBay's international. And we're not going to sell it internationally. We're going to keep it domestic. But it's a great platform for its visibility.
Yeah.
That's what it creates. And it's great because now you have a link. You can just use a link and send that link to your whole eBay store with everything on it.
Yeah.
It's so easily shared.
Do you remember how many items you've sold?
Well, you're asking the perfect questions. The first thing I asked them was, we have a lot here. What shall our first items be?
Yeah.
I go, I know what I'd like to put up first. Do you have anything in mind? No, Josh, what do you think? I said, well, you have these two prop steam engines, the Jupiter and the Constitution, that were used in the movie Disney's Lone Ranger. It's the one Johnny Depp was in.
Okay.
They're sitting out there in the yard. They're pristine. They look like real steam engines, but they're not.
Okay.
They're built on real train chassis,
Okay.
but the rest are fabricated with like little machines that make the smoke come out.
Okay.
They're incredible. And I go, those are my two most favorite prop
Yeah.
items you have. I go, and they're so special. They're in good shape. I said, let's start with those. Okay. And keep in mind, they're used to leasing this out when needed to movie companies. So they're not always thinking about the true value of this or could even really estimate. So they threw out a number to me. They go, well, we'd take maybe, 60,000 each, maybe 60, 70. I said, no.
Now, at that point, did you have any idea of value?
No.
Okay.
No, I just know that these were so special. I'm sure, why not start high? And honestly, things like this don't come around often. They're one of a kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact they're in movies like this,
Yeah.
and they're on this scale,
Yeah.
and they're this well made, and there's everything about them. There's value there to me that went well beyond.
Yeah.
It's a collector's
Yeah,
item.
you have the pedigree of being in the film industry as
Absolutely.
well.
It's all authentic. It's the real deal. So I said, you know what, guys? Let's put them for $125,000 each. But let's double what you just said.
Okay.
And see what happens. And they looked at me in full skepticism, like, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I am.
Uh-huh.
But hey, why not try? There's always someone sometimes. You never know who really could use it and do something with it
Sure.
and give it a good home. You never know. That's what I told me. You never know.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
So we I said, let's do it. I go out there. I took some video, took some photos, gave some description of what this is, what it's all about. And our first 2 items on eBay were the Jupiter and the Constitution from Disney's Lone Ranger at $125,000 each. And as much as I got laughed at and told me they'd never sell, and was dealing with the skepticism in a loving way, in a silly way, they were giving me a hard time, which was great. I love that. Put them up there. Well, this was just before Thanksgiving, and 1 week had passed, and all of a sudden, there's a buy it now on one of the trains for $125,000.
What?
And that's what I said. And
Like,
then
this is a joke. Somebody hit the button on accident.
right, I'm like,
whatever.
is this for real?
Yeah.
And then we had delisted the other one because it was already at that point. There was some negotiating going on with a movie set area that could use it.
Okay.
So, funny thing, right when I delisted the other one, the people who did the buy it now said, "What happened to the other one? We wanted that one too for 125. That's 250,000.
Okay.
2 items." And I told the owners, "Hey, they want the other one." "Oh, well, sorry, we've now made this commitment for a different with a movie company or somebody."
Okay.
So I said, "Okay, well, you got one."
So they sold one for 125.
So we sold it. They wired it over, and it went
What
to
did they sell the other one for?
it went to a museum.
Okay.
Basically, the other one they made a deal with. I think they worked something out with Melody Ranch in Santa Clarita,
Okay.
where it can then be used in the future for people who may need it for
Okay.
movies.
Got it.
So it's that went to a good home as well.
Do you know what that one sold for or no?
No,
Oh,
that I don't. I wasn't involved with that agreement. That was between the owners and the people
Gotcha,
that
okay.
run Melody.
All right.
I'm sure there's
So
something there.
now that's the first.
But they both of them literally potentially would have sold. It's
Yeah.
just one was already now committed somewhere else.
Yeah, got it.
But I'm just saying
So
was-
you got 2 sold. How many other items did you sell?
Well, after that happened, I just remember talking to them before Thanksgiving, and we were all pretty excited when the wire transfer came through, and said, "Well, there's something to give thanks for a start."
Yeah.
And that's when they looked at me and said, "Hey, Josh, go crazy.
Okay.
Here's the keys to all the 40-foot containers. Here's the keys to the gates to the yards. Go for it, man. Go out there, take pictures of everything you can, get it all." I was putting everything I could on eBay.
Yeah.
Full descriptions. It's good. That's so important with the eBay. You want accurate, full descriptions, good photos. I think eBay even does video now. So it's like the better you can make those, and the more descriptive you can be. Of course, in our case, it was pickup only, or you'll have to arrange shipping,
Of course.
which we used OST for.
Okay.
If you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
And all in all, it worked out. I mean, literally, stuff went to private collectors, stuff went to other railroads, stuff went to museums all over the U.S. So it all found good homes in its own way. We're very thankful for that. It was so hard to watch it go, though, in the process.
I'm sure.
But beyond that, it's eBay was good for a start, and then word got out.
Okay.
This is a short window. Fillmore and Western's liquidating all this unique stuff. Word got out. I even used like Craigslist, just putting a few things out
Yeah.
there. Just some of the simple
That's got
local,
what a
local
random
stuff.
ad on Craigslist. Because
Right.
every once in a while, I'll scroll through Craigslist. I'll look at motorcycles, boats, cars,
Trains.
real estate, right? And if I came across this where it was like, hey, there's an entire train yard being liquidated, like I'd have to go look. I'd have to go
Yes.
look. You know?
Yes.
Just
We-
to check it out.
We had folks, right? Yeah, and word spreads fast when it comes to unique opportunities.
Of course,
like that.
yeah.
It really did. What was really fun is I'd get folks like you, who like what you're saying, who like just want to see it. And
I probably
oftentimes
would have bought stuff.
that's
you know,
happened.
like-
So I would tour people
Yeah.
through the yards, and I loved it with a checklist,
Yeah.
with a checkboard. And I previously walked through it with the owners and said, hey, let's start figuring out prices on all these things. Because if people ask, I want to be ready.
Yeah.
And give them what we could. And a lot of it we could give really, fair prices. We just needed it gone. But some of the big stuff, like the hand car from Oh Brother Where Art Thou,
Yeah.
or the engine that was used in Inception,
Yeah.
or the so
How
many
much-
other.
How much did that go for?
Which one?
The one that was in Inception.
Inception. I think that one went for either 15 or 20,000.
Yeah.
What was interesting is that scene, as I was showing you earlier, where the train car is going down the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And you wonder, how did they do that?
Yeah.
That was a truck. It was a
Yeah.
giant truck, a box truck. It was a truck bed.
Yeah, and they just
built.
stripped the truck off of it, and they just used the
Yep.
frame and the cab. You showed me the video. The cab was inside. Like, it's just a truck with a train shell built around it.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing I've seen.
Absolutely. The whole exterior was fabricated.
Yeah.
A lot of that was just wood.
So
and
somebody-
it looked like metal.
Somebody picked that thing up for 15,
Yeah,
20,000
and it went to a museum.
and went to a
Did.
museum.
That
Wow.
that deals with transportation
Yeah.
museum. That part of their museum deals with like movie
Yeah.
related stuff. That deals with different types of vehicles,
Yeah.
and trains.
So-
So it was really neat.
So,
Yeah.
do you know how many items you sold?
Gosh, oh man, no. There
You
was-
don't know. Okay.
Then between the online sales and all the people that would come through the yards that would buy from
Thousands.
us, at least many hundreds of. It could have been. I don't.
Okay.
Some people would take a whole container of
Wow.
stuff, and then they'd get one of those special trucks that take a 40-foot container
Yeah.
and put everything in there,
Take it on out.
and
yeah.
they're off with it.
Yeah.
So I mean some of it was bulk price. Just take all this,
Yeah.
and some of it was individual stuff. It was a whole mix.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Josh, it's
fun.
been awesome having you here, and all these cool stories that you've told us about the railroad, and of course, Turning Point Foundation. You know, we want to help Turning Point however we can. Of course, with this podcast, getting the word out there. So, tell us where they can find more information about Turning Point.
Absolutely. Our website has everything you could ever want to know.
What's the
It's
web
also
address?
where you can donate. It's turningpointfoundation.org.
.org.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Find us on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn.
Okay.
We're on Instagram.
Cool.
I would say just look us up by our name on
Yep.
there. Like us, follow us.
Sure.
We appreciate it. There's lots of great events that are coming up next year. It'll be a lot of fun for people, including the Mental Wellness Festival we talked about.
And all that information's on your website, right?
It'll be on the website, and follow our social media.
Yeah, we'll
I
put
mean,
that
it's
in the
big.
show notes. Everybody
Thank
can
you.
check it out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
And thank you, Tom, for co-hosting the show today. Hey, everybody, really quick. I just wanted to let you know that we do this for free. We do this out of the goodness of our heart. And all that we ask of you is just to quickly leave a review, if you wouldn't mind. It really helps the algorithm, and it helps push this out to a lot more people every time you do that. And if you've already subscribed, that's awesome. Thank you so much. But definitely leave a review. It really, really helps us out. And I know for you guys, it only takes like less than 30 seconds. Okay, back to the show.